Top Creepiest Small Towns in the US. That's the title, but what you're about to hear isn't just a list. It's a warning. Because scattered across America are towns that look quiet, normal, even welcoming at first glance. Yet something about them never quite sits right. These aren't places where horror movies were filmed. These are places where real people lived real lives, and then something happened that never fully let go. And the unsettling part is this. People still drive through them every single day without realizing what they're passing. There's a strange moment that happens when you enter one of these towns. It's subtle. You don't notice it right away. At first, everything seems fine. A few houses, a gas station, maybe a welcome sign that looks a little too old. But then you realize there are no people outside. No kids riding bikes, no dogs barking. The air feels heavier, thicker, like sound doesn't travel the way it should. And suddenly you're very aware of how loud your own presence feels, like the town itself is listening. Most people assume creepy places are abandoned, but that's what makes these towns worse. Many of them are still standing. Some are still inhabited, and some were never meant to be remembered at all. One of the most disturbing places in the United States lies in central Pennsylvania. Centralia is a town that is technically still there, but barely. From above, it looks like a handful of houses surrounded by cracked roads and overgrown land. But beneath the surface, something has been burning nonstop since 1962. An underground coal fire, started accidentally, spread into the earth, and refused to die. The ground heats up. Smoke seeps out through cracks in the pavement. Entire roads split apart like something tried to crawl out from underneath. Families were forced to leave. The government erased addresses, shut down utilities, and declared the town unsafe. Yet even now, a few residents remain, choosing to live above a fire that could burn for centuries. When you stand there, you can feel warmth rising from the ground, and it's impossible to ignore the thought that the town itself is alive in a way it shouldn't be. Far out west, clinging to the cliffs of Arizona, is Jerome. At one point, it was one of the most violent mining towns in the country. Money, alcohol, desperation, and death flowed freely. When the mines dried up, the people left, but the stories didn't. Buildings lean at impossible angles, as if trying to escape the mountain. Doors open and close on their own. People staying in the old hospital turned hotel report being touched in their sleep, hearing voices call their names, and feeling watched when no one is there. Locals talk about ghosts casually, like they're just part of daily life. And that's what makes it unsettling. They're not trying to scare you, they're just telling you how things are. In West Virginia, there's a town forever tied to a creature no one can fully explain. Point Pleasant became known in the 1960s after dozens of people reported seeing a tall, winged figure with glowing red eyes. It appeared near abandoned buildings and along the river, always watching. Then, without warning, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people. Some believe the creature was a warning. Others believe it caused the tragedy. Even decades later, people report strange lights, feelings of dread, and an overwhelming sense that something unseen is nearby. The town built a statue, embraced the legend, but the unease never left. In Kansas, there's a town so small most people have never heard of it, yet its reputation reaches far beyond its borders. Stull is known for one chilling rumor, that its cemetery is one of the gateways to hell. Stories claim animals behave aggressively, shadows move on their own, and a church once disappeared entirely. Even skeptics admit something feels wrong there, especially at night. People report sudden headaches, nausea, and the intense feeling of being watched. Locals don't like to talk about it, and when people avoid something for generations, it usually isn't for no reason. Out in the California desert, Slab City exists without rules. Built on an abandoned military base, it has no electricity, no running water, and no law enforcement. People go there to escape society completely. Some are artists, some are drifters, some are running from things they don't want found. Structures are built from scrap. Messages are painted everywhere. At night, fires burn, music echoes, and strangers move through the darkness. There's no order, no safety net, and no guarantee you'll leave the same way you arrived. It's freedom taken to a level that becomes frightening. In Iowa, there's a house that looks like any other, sitting quietly on a normal street. But in 1912, something happened there that no one has ever been able to explain. An entire family, along with 2 visiting children, were murdered in their sleep with an axe. The killer was never caught. The house still stands, preserved in time. Visitors report hearing footsteps, voices, and children crying. Some claim they're touched or scratched. Others leave suddenly, overwhelmed by fear. Even people who don't believe in anything paranormal admit the atmosphere inside feels heavy, like the house remembers. Deep in the woods of Connecticut lies Dudleytown, a settlement that no longer exists but refuses to be forgotten. Families who lived there reportedly went insane, disappeared, or died under strange circumstances. The forest around it feels unnaturally dark, even during the day. Compasses malfunction. Sounds don't behave normally. Access is restricted, but those who've gone anyway describe a sense of dread so strong it feels physical, like the land itself doesn't want witnesses. Gary, Indiana isn't abandoned, but it feels like it's stuck in the past. Once a booming industrial city, it's now filled with empty schools, churches, and neighborhoods slowly collapsing. Buildings stand open, as if everyone left in a hurry. Silence fills places that should be loud. Urban explorers talk about hearing movement where no one should be, and feeling watched, even in broad daylight. It's not a ghost town, but it carries the weight of one. Salem, Massachusetts is famous for its witch trials, but the true horror lies in how easily fear turned neighbors against each other. Innocent people were executed based on accusations and hysteria. Visitors today report strange sensations in old buildings and cemeteries, shadows where there shouldn't be, objects falling, a feeling that the past never fully released its grip. Near the deserts of Texas sits Terlingua, a near ghost town surrounded by isolation. Abandoned cemeteries and collapsing buildings sit under a sky so wide it feels oppressive. At night, strange lights are often seen in the distance, moving in ways that don't make sense. The silence there isn't peaceful. It's watching. And then there's a road in New Jersey that people avoid without always knowing why. Clinton Road winds through dense forest, and drivers report ghostly figures, phantom headlights, and the sense of being followed. Some say time feels distorted there. Others say stopping is a mistake. It's just a road, but it carries a reputation earned over decades. These towns don't announce themselves as creepy. They don't try to scare you. They just exist, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to notice that something isn't right. And the longer you stay, the harder it is to shake the feeling that you're not alone, even when there's no one in sight. And this is only the beginning. As you keep listening, something strange happens. Your mind starts connecting dots you didn't even know were there. Different towns, different states, different histories. Yet the same feeling keeps showing up again and again. Silence that feels intentional. Empty streets that don't feel empty. Places where time seems slowed, stretched, or slightly out of place. It's as if these towns are frozen at the exact moment something went wrong, and they've been waiting ever since. In Louisiana, buried deep in thick swampland where fog clings low to the water, and the air never truly feels still, there's a place called Manchac. Most people don't stop there, they don't linger, and locals will tell you that's a good thing. Manchac is surrounded by legends of a powerful voodoo priestess who was executed in the early 1900s. Before her death, it's said she placed a curse on the town, promising it would never know peace. Since then, people have reported seeing glowing eyes just above the swamp water at night, hearing chanting carried on the wind, and feeling like something is moving just out of sight. The swamp never goes quiet here. Even when the insects stop, there's still something else making noise. Something deeper, slower, watching. In the wide-open desert of Texas, there's a small town that becomes a gathering place after sunset, not for people looking to party, but for people looking for answers. Marfa seems ordinary during the day. Quiet streets, small buildings, nothing that stands out. But once the sun goes down, strange lights begin to appear in the distance. They float, they flicker, they split apart and merge back together. They change colors. Scientists have tried to explain them for decades. Reflection, atmospheric conditions, vehicles that don't exist. None of the explanations fully work. What's unsettling isn't just the lights themselves, but the way they seem aware, like they're responding to being watched. Far out in Nevada, near one of the most secretive locations in the country, sits the tiny town of Rachel. It's close to Area 51, and while locals joke about aliens, visitors often leave feeling uneasy rather than entertained. Unmarked aircraft fly overhead at odd hours. Lights move across the sky in patterns that don't resemble anything familiar. At night, the desert feels endless and exposed, like there's nowhere to hide. Many people report the same thing without ever comparing notes. The feeling of being observed, measured, studied, even when they're completely alone. In New Mexico, there's a town where the sound never stops. Taos is known for something called the Taos hum, a low-frequency noise that only some people can hear. There's no identifiable source. No machinery, no explanation. For those who hear it, it's constant, day and night. It causes headaches, anxiety, insomnia, and an overwhelming sense of unease. Some residents eventually move away just to escape the sound. Others stay, insisting the hum isn't coming from outside at all, that it's coming from somewhere deeper. In Florida, there's a town that doesn't hide its strangeness. Cassadaga openly calls itself the psychic capital of the world. Mediums, spiritualists, and healers live and work there year-round. People visit looking for answers, closure, or contact with the other side, and many leave with stories they can't explain. Shadow figures crossing rooms, voices whispering names, sudden emotional shifts that feel like someone else's feelings bleeding through. Even skeptics admit the atmosphere feels charged, like the air itself is heavier, thicker, waiting. In Colorado, the old mining town of Black Hawk once thrived on gold, greed, and desperation. Miners worked deep underground, often in dangerous conditions, and many never made it back out. Today, people report hearing the sound of picks striking rock long after the mines closed. Footsteps echo through empty buildings. Some say the mountains themselves carry the noise, replaying it over and over again. And when the wind moves through the hills just right, it almost sounds like voices trying to finish sentences they never got to complete. Far north, in Alaska, there's a place so unsettling that people abandoned it almost overnight. Portlock was a small fishing town that should have survived. But in the 1940s, residents began reporting attacks by something tall, violent, and not quite human. People vanished. Bodies were found torn apart. Fear spread quickly. Families packed up and left, leaving buildings behind as they were. To this day, no one lives there permanently. Locals avoid the area, and nature has slowly swallowed what remains, as if trying to erase it completely. What's disturbing is how similar the stories feel. Different climates, different cultures, same patterns, sightings, sounds, feelings of being watched, sudden fear with no clear cause. It's as if these places all crossed some invisible line, and once they did, they could never go back. In New York, Sleepy Hollow leans heavily into its legend, but the atmosphere isn't just for tourists. Old cemeteries stretch between trees that have stood for centuries. Revolutionary war battle sites dot the land. People report seeing figures moving between headstones late at night, shapes that disappear when approached. Whether it's imagination or memory, the feeling is undeniable. The past doesn't feel past here. Back in the Midwest, there are towns people pass through without ever learning their names, places that feel slightly out of focus, like they don't quite belong to the present. Old signs, empty storefronts, churches that no longer hold services. When you slow down, when you really look, you realize these towns didn't just decline. They stopped. And that's the part most people don't talk about. Some towns die naturally. Others feel like they were abandoned mid-sentence, like life was interrupted rather than ended. Lights left on, doors unlocked, streets laid out for people who never came back. The deeper you go into these places, the more the stories blur together. A road you shouldn't stop on, a house you shouldn't stay in, a sound you shouldn't hear. Yet people do. And once they do, they carry that feeling with them long after they've left. Because the creepiest thing about these small towns isn't the legends, or the ghosts, or the mysteries. It's the possibility that something happened there that we still don't understand. Something that left a mark so deep the land itself remembers. And there are still more towns like this. More places that look harmless until you stay a little too long. More roads that feel wrong the moment you turn onto them. And we're not done yet. Some of these towns don't even have famous stories attached to them, and somehow that makes them worse. No documentaries, no movies, no books explaining what went wrong. Just quiet places where people stopped talking, stopped gathering, and eventually stopped staying. When there's no story, your mind tries to fill in the blanks on its own, and that's when the fear really settles in. There are towns where the welcome sign is still standing, but the paint is peeling and the name is barely readable. Towns where the gas station lights flicker, even though no one is inside. Towns where you swear you saw someone standing in a window, but when you look again, there's nothing there, and you tell yourself it's just your imagination, because the alternative feels too uncomfortable to consider. In parts of the Midwest, there are farming towns where the land looks healthy, the soil rich, yet the houses sit empty. Tractors rust in fields that haven't been touched in years. Mailboxes hang open, permanently waiting. Locals in nearby areas will tell you people just moved away, but they never explain why so many left all at once, and they don't like it when you ask. In Appalachia, some towns are hidden so deep in the mountains that cell service disappears miles before you reach them. Roads narrow, trees close in. The air cools suddenly. People who visit talk about hearing voices echo through the hills, voices that don't belong to anyone nearby. Old homes sit crooked, slowly sinking back into the earth, and there's a sense that the mountains are keeping secrets, not revealing them. There are desert towns where the heat feels oppressive in a way that goes beyond temperature, where silence rings in your ears so loudly it almost hurts, where you feel exposed, like there's nowhere to hide even though nothing is visible. At night, the stars feel too close, and every sound travels farther than it should. Some people swear they see movement just beyond the edge of the headlights, always staying out of reach. Then there are coastal towns where fog rolls in without warning, swallowing entire streets in seconds, where horns sound from the water even when no boats are visible, where buildings creak and shift as if adjusting themselves when no one is watching. Fishermen talk about things they've seen out on the water, but only after a long pause, and only if they trust you enough. What ties all these places together isn't just abandonment or tragedy. It's the feeling of interruption, like life was going in one direction, and then something stepped in and said, stop. Some people believe it's trauma that never healed. Others think it's energy left behind by fear, violence, or loss. And some believe it's something else entirely, something that doesn't have a name. People who grow up in these towns often leave as soon as they can. They don't always know why, they just know they need distance. And years later, when they talk about their hometowns, there's a pause before they speak. Like they're deciding how much to say, like they're weighing whether it's safe to remember. Visitors often underestimate these places. They expect jump scares, obvious danger, something dramatic. But the fear here is slow. It creeps in quietly. It's the way your instincts stay alert for no clear reason. The way you feel relief when you see the town in your rearview mirror, even though nothing bad actually happened. And that's the most unsettling part. In many of these towns, nothing happens at all. No ghost appears. No sound breaks the silence. No figure steps into the road. Yet you still leave feeling like you narrowly missed something. Some researchers believe places can absorb emotion, that repeated trauma can imprint itself onto the environment. Others think it's psychological, that knowing a place's history changes how we experience it. But that doesn't explain why people who know nothing about these towns still feel the same unease. There are stories of travelers stopping for gas in small towns late at night and realizing the attendant hasn't said a word the entire time. Stories of diners where the conversation stops the moment you walk in. Stories of motel rooms where sleep feels impossible, where every noise feels too close, too personal. And then there are the places that look perfect. Fresh paint, neatly trimmed lawns, quiet neighborhoods. No visible decay at all. Yet something still feels wrong. Almost rehearsed. Almost staged. Like the town is pretending to be normal rather than actually being normal. Those towns are often the hardest to shake because they make you question your own instincts. They make you wonder if you're the problem. And by the time you realize you're not, you're already gone. If you listen carefully to the stories from all these places, a pattern starts to form. Not of monsters or curses, but of warnings. Subtle ones, gut feelings. The sense that staying longer would be a mistake. These towns don't chase you. They don't trap you. They don't need to. They simply wait, knowing most people will leave on their own. And yet, people keep coming back, drawn by curiosity, by disbelief, by the need to see it for themselves. And some of them leave with stories they never planned on telling. Because once you've been to a place where reality feels slightly thinner, where the line between past and present feels blurred, it changes how you see every quiet town after that. Yeah. You start paying attention to the silence. You start noticing the empty streets. And you start wondering how many more places like this are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone else to drive through and feel it too. And if this video made you look at small towns differently, if it made you feel that quiet unease, that sense that something was watching just beyond the frame, then you're not alone. These places don't need monsters or jump scares. They linger in your thoughts long after the screen goes dark. So if you enjoyed this journey into the creepiest small towns in the US, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which town unsettled you the most, or if there's a place you think belongs on this list. Because there are many more towns out there where the story doesn't end when the people leave. And we're just getting started.